Hey guys, welcome back to the next section. In this section, we're going to start with the introduction of this particular architecture diagram, which is a very nice diagram. As you can see, a lot of information is given over here. Do not be overwhelmed with the information I have here. So these informations is all like we will cover later point of time, but it is also covered as part of our training. So don't worry about it. But what I want you to concentrate is the very specific details over here, which I've given. So here, what we have done so far in the previous section is that we have mastered pods by understanding to create these pods individually using command line method, as well as we created pods using the YAML file as well. So now we would have specified in all those scenarios, we would have specified after the API version, we would have specified kind pods, right? So now we are going to go into a new section in which we are going to master the replica set. Now, replica set is another kind of service offered by Kubernetes. Now, this service is going to be much different than the pod service. Pod service was very simple, wherein which we were able to create pods and pod carry containers, and it can also carry multiple containers. Those things will not change forever. So that is going to be there for sure. But then replica set is going to add one more layer on top of the existing pods. So as we go further, right, you can see that there are layers added on top of it, and each layers are different from its own, from a different one, and there is a different use case where we use those layers, okay, which I will explain you when we go forward with this training. But then it's going to be very interesting because I'm going to give you some heads up towards these so that you start getting familiar with these terms, and then when we go into those details, it's going to be much easier for you. But do not worry, I will not be overloading you with so much information that you forget everything. So we will take it one step at a time, where I tell you slowly what exactly is going on, and then you can catch up with me on these action items. As you can see over here, so the first one had no replication, it says over here in this exclamatory box or alert box. So yes, the pods were never replicated across the nodes. So when you create a pod, if you remember on the previous architecture, so it actually was able to create a specific pod in a worker. So when you see the output of the get pod command, if you control get pods, you can see that the pod were deployed across one server at a time. For example, the HTTP Tomcat pod was deployed on worker 2. But this HTTP Tomcat pod was replicated anywhere else, as in like, is there a backup for this pod which is hosted on any other server? There is none. And if you see the external pod over here, it was not deployed, it's pending, sorry. External 1 pod over here is deployed on worker 2. External 2 pod is deployed on worker 1. So likewise, you are currently deploying pods with a single container or multi-containers inside one specific node. So which means that there is no replication here. Replication as in the same pod is not appearing across multiple nodes, right? So which is a problem when you're talking about in a production. So if a pod fails, there must be another pod which can actually give you a help in the absence of the other pod. So you can use in both scenarios, like in terms of high availability, there are 2 scenarios which we normally come across in high availability. One is in case of load balancing or in case of failover. So both kind of support is not available. So if this pod gets deleted or crashed or anything like that, we need to wait for the pod to restart by itself when it detects that it has failed. So likewise, there is no replication here. So now we are going to talk about that specific replica. Replica means replication. Yeah, that's why it's named as replica. So replica set means a set of replications over here. So you can see that in the specification on the replica, there is something called replicas :3, which means that there is a set of 3 instances of the same container would appear on your server. So this particular HTTP pod will appear 3 times with the same name, and it will actually be hosted in worker 2, worker 1, and worker 2 again. It could be worker 2, worker 1, and worker 1 also, It depends on the performance of your worker 1 or worker 2 node. It will decide which node it needs to start the other server in. So, but for sure there will be 3 replicas of that, right? So that is basically this particular service offering us. Okay, so it comprises of what we have learned on the previous section, which is pods, where you see that I have created 2 different items over here just for you to understand. Yeah, the first one is all about a single container over here, which is an Nginx container, which is container port, which is 80, right? On the second one over here, it's a dual container within a pod, and basically it has the Nginx container as well as busybox container. So this is a Linux operating system again. So this is another container which runs with a sleep command of 3600 seconds, which is going to have this container running for 3600 seconds every time the container restarts. Okay, so now you can see that pretty much the similar configuration what you've seen there. You see that replica set is there, replica set is there. The name of the container is different, obviously, because every container should have its own unique name. And then the replicas is going to be 3. Okay, we will talk in selector about this in detail. I have a presentation on selector later point of time, so we will work on that. Don't put yourself in a situation where you were thinking about this. And then you have the specification. The specification about this container. You have 2 containers over here. One container is Nginx container, which is running on port number 80. The next one is a busybox container, which is sleeping right now. A similar setup what you will find on a normal pod setup, but except that there is a little bit of extra information over here, which talks about some selector and the number of replicas. So now what you will expect when you run this one, you will see 2 out of 2 pods created across node 1, node 2, and node 1. So you will see the same, Nginx service, and you will see the busybox service hosted on different IP addresses across worker 1, worker 2, worker 1. So that's basically what Replica is. Replica is going to replicate the instances across multiple nodes, as many nodes you have. Okay, so this is what I want to tell you in terms of replica set. So this is a basic understanding on replica set. And do remember that when we go forward, when we talk about deployments, stateful sets, these replica sets are going to be there as part of this, and the concept of replica set is not going to change in this areas. It's going to be the same as it is. In terms of daemon sets, daemon sets basically has the similar concept of replica set, but it is slightly different from it, even for jobs as well. The jobs has also similar concepts of replica set, but it has different purposes. So we will in detail discuss about these things later point of time when we go forward with our training. But do not worry, this is all covered as part of your training. So I'll slowly take you through all these things with different options and mastering through all of them. All right, so now this is how we are going to start our training or this particular session with. Later point of time, we're going to see a lot of architectures towards understanding more in detail about the selectors, how the selectors decide which specification it needs to select, and how, on what basis it needs to select. So likewise, we will see in much detail later point of time. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you on the next one.